E3 2019, it happened, I'm grading it. Was last year better? Enough of the bullshit, let's get right into it. First up in E3 is the EA presentation.
EA.
So, we remember last year how EA just fucking bombed last year. Especially with that laughable presentation of the mobile Command & Conquer game, where they literally pulled out 2 Twitch streamers to uncomfortably play the game, leading the audience to wonder why they were spending so much time on it. Well, this year, they did something a bit more interesting. They're doing an event called EA Play. Instead of having a normal press conference, they will only be showing off a handful of games, but they will be showing 15 minutes of actual gameplay from each game as the trailer. No shows, no extra shit, no companies jerking themselves off, just straight up gameplay, which, honestly, even though we aren't getting as much in the conference, is a step in the right direction. The first game they showed off was Jedi: A Fallen Order, a brand new Star Wars game. In the first few minutes of this gameplay video, I was wholly unimpressed. Oh look, it's Uncharted, but Star Wars. As the gameplay video went on, however, it got me more and more interested in what this game had to offer. It's Uncharted meets Arkham meets Dead Space. It's Uncharted in ways that there are cinematic 3D platforming sections and climbing sections, very, very reminiscent of Uncharted. Even the way our protagonist reaches for the other ledge is nearly identical to Nathan Drake. It's the Arkham games in the way that it is a beat-em-up game that is very free form. Every button press is one action, you can string those actions together to create really cool combos. It's Dead Space only in the way of one aspect of combat that I think really sets this game apart from other Star Wars games. Now, feel free to prove me wrong because I'm not that much into Star Wars and I may just be talking out of my ass, but I think when people think combat in a Star Wars game, they think lightsabers, and that's it. It's really cool to see that this game incorporates the Force into the combat. You can use it to pull enemies to you, push them away, and even slow down time, much like stasis in Dead Space. Will I buy this game? Probably not. I'm not enough of a Star Wars fan to do so, but it is impressing me so far with what the game has to offer. The next game they showed was Apex Legends. In this part of the presentation, they showed off Season 2 of Apex Legends, some updates to balance the game, new features like ranked mode, and a new character, Watson. So this is where the problems of this new format EA has taken begin to take form. Because Apex Legend is a game that already exists, and they're spending this time telling us news about it, when you're someone like me who does not already play Apex Legend, it's just a half hour of people talking about stuff you don't really know or care about. This was the part that I tuned out on most because they were just talking about update stuff and I didn't even know what the base game had. I know this is a more personal gripe and not an actual criticism, but it goes to show that this format doesn't really work when it comes to announcing updates for games that have already been released. The next game they decided to show off was Battlefield 5. Once again, they didn't need to dedicate the full half hour that each game has to talking about an update. I understand people who are into Battlefield 5 or Apex Legends will appreciate this information, but I really feel like for those of us who aren't into the games and just want to see the new stuff, the least you could do is cut down the time that these update parts get. Save the time for the new stuff. Next up, we have the EA Sports games, the first of which being FIFA 20. So remember how in the beginning of this I said that EA was doing this EA Play event to put more focus on the gameplay, aka what the people want to see? Well, they threw it out the window already. They had no gameplay to show off here except for those tech demos, and the rest was just them boasting about how realistic and authentic this game was. They dedicated so much time to them interviewing street soccer players and what soccer means for their culture. I think I can firmly say that not even FIFA fans give a shit and just want to see what the new game looks like. It was a huge waste of time. Hopefully their Madden announcement will be better. But let's break away from the gameplay, our focus to talk about this anti-bullying online gaming charity. And you better not forget we gotta talk to the great late show host Trevor Noah. Fuck off, EA. If you're gonna make a whole event talking about stuff that has to do with your games, that's fine. But don't lie and say that you'll be focusing only on the gameplay of a game. What a shock. EA lied. Oh cool, more Anthem news. I bet everyone cares about that dumpster fire. Finally, we get to Madden, and it's just as much a waste of time, if not more so, than FIFA. They spent so much time on Madden, it was ridiculous. And with barely any gameplay. Again, EA fucking lied. It's starting to make me actually upset now, and I don't think I'm the only one. The crowd did not sound happy at all during this part of the presentation.
There it is. The crowd loves Juju, right? Yeah. Juju! You guys, oh my goodness.
Unlike EA, I'm not going to spend too much time on Madden because I don't see a reason to. Last in the EA presentation, thank God, is their announcements about Sims 4. I've been waiting all conference to hear what they have to say about this, so let's see what they got. They showed off a trailer for the new Island Adventure DLC where we'll be getting a tropical island, new clothes, and the ability to have your sim be a mermaid. We're also getting some clothes for your Sims for Pride Month, as well as a woke-ass, gender-neutral bathroom for your sim. Last but not least, we got the announcement of the next DLC, Realm of Magic, which sounds really cool. See how I was very short, sweet, and precise with my description? That's what they did this time, thank God. No long-winded speech about how Madden is a football game, or FIFA is soccer, and how authentic it is. Ended on a good note. So, let's get into the grading. EA made a really good move when it decided that they were going to focus more on the gameplay when it came to E3 2019, and it started off real strong. As the presentation went on, however, it became more and more apparent that the promise of a focus on gameplay was just a blatant lie. Between not showing much that was new and most of the new they did show, namely the sports games, didn't even have gameplay, it really started to make me upset. Ending the show with Sims 4 news was a good ending, but not enough for me to grade EA's presentation anything higher than a D. Now, when I say it's a D, I'm not talking a solid D, more like it was almost an F, but the fact that I can say that 2 of like the 5 parts of the presentation were good saved it from a failing grade. EA, as always, doesn't bring the strong start that we want. But will Microsoft bring their A game? Let's find out. The first official conference of E3. Let's see how it is, shall we? The first trailer they showed off in the show was a first-person shooter game called The Outer Worlds. It kind of looks like a space Fallout. The game doesn't look the greatest graphically, though. It kind of reminds me of the weird, janky look of games like Oblivion or Fallout New Vegas. The next game they showed off was a 4v4 multiplayer combat game called Bleeding Edge. Boy, are they trying hard to get the same magic that Overwatch seemed to have. Like, it's not just me, right? A lot of these characters are very reminiscent of Overwatch characters. It looks interesting enough, just not enough to get me to want it right away. As for Ori and the Will of the Wisps, on the other hand, I know I said it last year, but fuck, I want to play this game. It looks so fluid, so action-oriented, so thoughtful in every bit of its design and aesthetic. I just want it so bad, and now we finally have a release date. Next up, they showed Minecraft Dungeons, a dungeon-crawling Minecraft universe game. It looks fun enough. You'll be able to play local and online 4-player co-op, but I can't help but to feel it would be more at home on the mobile game market than on a console. Next, Phil Spencer comes out on stage to brief us on what we're about to see. Couldn't help but give him props for that sweet Psychonauts shirt. Real classy. Well, we got about 60 games to get through. Leave it to Microsoft to show off an excessive amount of games, so let's waste no time and quickly make it through what they're showing. First up, we got another trailer for Jedi Fallen Order. We've already talked about the gameplay, but this shows more of the story elements, and I gotta say, I like our new protagonist. Since we already talked about this game, I'm just gonna move on to the next one right away. The next game I found kind of weird. So it starts out as what looks like to be a Slender clone. You're walking around the woods with a flashlight as monsters are appearing in and out of the woods. It cuts to a flashback shown through a camera of the protagonist walking into the woods with a camera. Then the trailer plays out. It looks pretty mediocre if I'm gonna be honest. Then it zooms out of the woods to reveal it's a Blair Witch Project game? I don't know how I feel about this, but you do you, I guess. Now the next game they showed off was a big one. Cyberpunk 2077. I got mad Deus Ex vibes off of this one. Cybernetic enhancements, blades coming out of the arms, hired mercenaries, underground organizations, badass protagonists. I literally thought this was going to be a Deus Ex game. Even after they revealed the name of the game to be Cyberpunk 2077, when they panned up to reveal one of our protagonist partners, I was expecting to see Adam Jensen. Instead, I got Keanu Reeves, which was a huge surprise. Then Keanu Reeves comes out and talks about the fucking game. That's pretty badass. I'm actually pretty hyped for this game. Can't wait for my birthday to pick it up. Next up, they showed Spiritfarer. This game looks indie as fuck. The animation is breathtaking, the characters seem great, the aesthetic is really nice, but this one didn't really draw me in. Not really much into the build and craft kind of games, it's just not my thing. I heard that jingle, and I got excited. Next game they showed was Battletoads. This game looks like it's going to be so much fun. I love how they went with a Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel that both feels like it's from the 90s but also modern. It kind of reminds me of the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in a way. I cannot wait to play it. Next up, we got RPG Time, The Legend of Wright. This game kind of looks like a Zelda-style action RPG game with a pencil sketchbook aesthetic, very reminiscent of the Paper Mario games. This game looks like it's taking the pencil sketch and storybook format and running with it to infinity and beyond. This game has a style that has me intrigued. The next segment talks about the Xbox Game Pass, and they showed off a number of indie game titles as well as big name games that will be provided as a part of the service, as well as a PC version of the service. My feelings on Xbox Game Pass has not changed since last year. It still scares me. I really like the market of video games having physical copies, and I know as the years go on that it'll become less and less a part of the industry, but I don't care. I don't want it to end. I like my box art. Hell, I miss my manuals. This is the kind of stuff that will kill game stores, and I really don't want that day to come. It scares me more now because it really seems like they have an amazing collection of games. Please don't take off. The next game they showed off was Microsoft Flight Simulator. Everything you need to know is in the title. Not much else to say. Next up is Age of Empires 2. Like I said with the Minecraft game, this game feels more at home with the mobile market than the console market. At least this had the advantage of being a mobile game first. The next game they showed was Wasteland 3. Never even knew there was a Wasteland 1 and 2, and after watching this, I see why. This trailer did not impress me. Just looks like one of your run-of-the-mill strategy games. Nothing special. Next up, they announced that my favorite video game company was becoming a partner of Xbox Game Studios. That company is Double Fine Productions. They brought out the man, the myth, the brutal legend, my future husband himself, Tim Schafer. I can't help but to love this man. With him, he brought a trailer for the game I cannot wait for. Psychonauts 2. There's so much here to love. I love how Lobato seems to be the focus. How we get to go inside Lobato's mind, the only character in the first Psychonauts we didn't get to go inside of. Best of all, it looks like we're getting some insight on the Gypsy's curse that has plagued Rasputin and his family for years. I cannot wait. But where's the release date? Next up, they showed off LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, a LEGO Star Wars game adaptation of all 9 movies in the franchise. I gotta say, that's pretty cool. I might actually pick that up. As soon as I saw Toribot, I knew what the next game they were gonna show was. Dragon Ball Project Z Action RPG, now known as Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. This game looks pretty good. The combat seems a little confusing, and I wonder how it'll play out. I hope it's not like Xenoverse. Overall, this looks like a really good adaptation of the Dragon Ball Z, Saiyan, and Frieza sagas, and I hope they plan to do more in the future with the rest of Z and Dragon Ball Super. Next up is 12 Minutes, a game about a man going through the same events over and over. More of an experience than a game, it seems. It has me intrigued, though. Next up is Way to the Woods. This is art game as fuck right here. Seems nice enough, even though so far it just kind of looks like a glorified walking simulator. Not really interested, honestly. Next big game they showed off extensively is Gears of War 5, as well as a 3-player co-op mode called Escape. They also showed off that Gears of War and Terminator are now crossing over, which is odd. Thankfully, this is the only example of showboating they did so far, especially with having that entire set under the stage. I thought that was actually pretty neat. Went on for a bit, but I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome too much. Next, they showed off a new type of Xbox One controller that is fully customizable, which is actually really cool. Next up is a trailer for Dying Light 2. Looks like a pretty standard first-person shooter, nothing too special to note. Next up is a DLC of Forza Horizon 4, themed after Legos. I kind of wish this was its own game instead of a DLC to an unrelated game, but fuck it, it looks cool enough. Next is Gears of War Pop, a mobile strategy game starring Funko Pop versions of Gears characters. Meh. Next up is State of Decay 2 Heartland, an expansion for a game I've never heard of, and judging by the look of it, I don't really care to hear of it. Then, we have Phantasy Star Online 2. I played my fair share of Phantasy Star Online back in the day on my Xbox 360, so it's really cool that it's finally coming back. Thank God it's on PC too, or else I wouldn't be able to play it. Next, they have Crossfire, a trailer that has no gameplay but badass music and nice visuals. No game, no life though. Unlike the next trailer, Tales of Arise, I'm gonna say Arise. And it looks just like an action RPG, and that's it. Next up though is a game you all know I'm already hyped for, Borderlands 3. Just watch our Borderlands playthrough. That playthrough is fueled by hype. Next up, we got Elden Ring, a fantasy game by Bandai Namco written by George R.R. Martin. Sounds promising, but no gameplay, no life. Next up, they show off what their next console will be, Project Scarlet, a presentation with a lot of lip service and not a lot of actual showing. I don't know about you, but I feel like that they really shouldn't reveal a console if they aren't going to show what it can do. I know they said it'll start with Halo and the next trailer is Halo, but that's not enough. I'm not hyped for the system, I'm just bored with it already. Anyway, Halo Infinite. I gotta say, the story has me hooked. The game graphically looks decent, nothing groundbreaking, but not Mass Effect Andromeda, except for that hologram. Ooh. Master Chief, always badass. No gameplay, no life though. With that, the conference is over. There was a lot. I want to cry. Let's grade it, bitches. Overall, not bad. Microsoft, as usual, had a lot to show off this year. I gotta say, a lot more of the stuff they showed made me either excited or intrigued instead of just waiting for the next hint of something good. Honestly, they didn't do too bad. A lot of updates and DLCs though, which I think should be saved for a separate announcement. E3 should be a place where new stuff is showed, not add-ons. Because of this, I give Microsoft a grade of B+. Oh, Bethesda. You really don't make good games, do you?
Todd Howard.
Except for Doom. Well, let's see how you stack up this year. After a nice little intro about how Bethesda developers are gamers just like us, Bethesda Man walks onto the stage. He talks for a bit about gaming and Bethesda and why he loves us and yada yada, and then motherfucking Todd Howard comes on stage, baby!
Given some of that excitement, impressed you're still here.
God, I love how self-critical he can be. He made a joke about Fallout 76. Can't help but give Todd Howard props, and even Bethesda props for acknowledging how much of a mess Fallout 76 was. They start out with the announcements with some updates and add-ons to Elder Scrolls Blade, the mobile Elder Scrolls game. They also announced that Elder Scrolls Blades will be on Switch, which actually doesn't look too bad of a transition. Next up is some news about the beautiful disaster that was Fallout 76. Fallout 76 Wastelanders. It looks like they're finally adding more game to Fallout 76. Maybe it'll actually be better now and not a huge pile of garbage. I think Fallout 76 was too terrible for me to ever be interested in anything they're doing now. So, yeah, I don't care. I cannot believe that Snapcube's Sonic 06 fandub predicted Fallout 76 Battle Royale.
That way he can make Fallout 76 Battle Royale.
Fuck yeah, we put a Battle Royale in Fallout 76.
They added a Battle Royale to this game. You think they're pandering much to the general gamer? Well, can we move on now? I don't like this anymore. Todd Howard comes back to tell us that they're still working on Starfield, their RPG, and Elder Scrolls 6, essentially confirming that there will be no footage of those two games, which arguably there should have been footage of at least Elder Scrolls 6 by now. Next, they have someone come out to talk about Ghostwire Tokyo. When they show off the trailer, wow, these graphics look crazy. It took me a second to discern whether or not this was actually live action video or just the game. The trailer definitely has me interested, even though I wish they showed a bit of gameplay. Then we have some awkward video of Bethesda developers saying what other jobs they have for whatever reason. This was supposed to be a segue into Elder Scrolls Online, I guess. They show off a trailer for the next chapter of the online story, Elsewhere. More dragons, more characters, I don't know, more stuff I don't care about. More of nothing new and only updates and add-ons. Finally, showing off something new, they show a trailer for Commander Keen, a mobile game that is based off of a very old game by id Software in the style of a Saturday morning cartoon. Then they showed the gameplay. It looks really slow and really boring. I would have much rathered a cartoon. Next up, they show off an add-on for the Elder Scrolls mobile card game. Once again, with the fucking add-ons. We get more information on Rage 2, Rage 2 Insanity Rules. Looks like they're trying to be Borderlands. Next. Finally, more new stuff. New Wolfenstein news. We're getting a VR Wolfenstein game called Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. Not bad, always like me some VR. Ooh, Wolfenstein Youngblood is launching soon. Can't wait. This game looks really, really badass. The story of the next game has me interested. Deathloop. A game where two people go through the same cycle over and over again and want to kill each other. One because they want to break the cycle, the other because they want to preserve it. As the presenter put it,
It's really fucking cool.
after some more Bethesda dick sucking, we get another fucking streaming service. Fucking die, will you? It's pretty cool that you can play Doom on a phone, but like, stop killing the video game selling market, man. Next up is literally the game I watched this conference for, Doom Eternal. I want this game right fucking now. Please, just let it come out tomorrow instead of November 22nd. Even the multiplayer looks really fun. With that, the Bethesda conference came to an end. Let's see how they stack up. So, I gotta say, Bethesda was very lackluster this year. Most of the stuff they announced were updates to already existing games like Fallout 76 or Elder Scrolls Online. They didn't have much new to talk about. There were those really awkward, you are the hero in between segments that was just Bethesda sucking their own dicks. The only good thing about this entire show was all of the stuff on Doom Eternal. But even then, as much as I'm hyped for this game, the Doom Eternal stuff lasted for the last 20 minutes of the conference. A whole quarter of the conference was dedicated to Doom Eternal and showing off gameplay to a game that already had a whole live stream dedicated to this kind of thing. Due to all these factors, I have to give Bethesda's conference an F. Even though there was some good, not even Doom Eternal could save this one. Sorry, Bethesda. Maybe the next company can do better. So, funny enough, I actually completely missed Devolver last year, which I felt really bad about it because apparently their conference was amazing last year. So this year, I'll give them a proper grade. Boy, do they know how to start a presentation. Just to get across the fact that they aren't doing a live show but a Nintendo Direct style presentation, they made a whole short film with beautiful lighting, hilarious writing, and hilarious self-aware humor. Enough of the theatrics, however. Let's get into the important stuff. The games. The first game they showed was Fall Guys, a strategic puzzle game where you complete a course using a certain number of Fall Guys. Next up is Devolver Bootleg, which is a hilarious idea where you play bootleg versions of Devolver's previous games. My personal favorite is Hotline Milwaukee. The next game they showed off was Carry On, a horror game where you play the scary monster that kills people. This game looks cathartic as fuck. Even the way the tentacles move about the place is crazy creepy. Next up is Enter the Gungeon, House of the Gun Dead. It's the first Devolver game that's actually an arcade game. That's pretty badass. Looks like I'm going to round 1 to play some Gungeon. Next up is an expansion of the Messenger called Picnic Panic. And just a little side note, if this is what the Messenger actually looks like, because I've never actually seen or played any of this game, man, I want me some Ninja Gaiden / Shovel Knight action. Must buy now. Next up is My Friend Pedro, a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game that I really want to play as well. It looks so fluid, and I hope it's not just for show for the trailer. With that, and a short epilogue showing that one girl's true intentions in doing a Devolver Direct, that ends the Devolver Digital Conference. This conference was a shorty, but a goodie. They showed off all new stuff, only one expansion pack, and every game that they did show was a banger that I wanted to play. For this reason, Devolver Digital gets an A+. Short, sweet, to the point, and wildly entertaining. Let's see how the PC gaming show stacks up. PC Master Race, more like PC Master Bait. Haha, I'm hilarious. Let's get through this thing.
I bring news! Join me in PC gaming and ascend to godhood!
After a quick rundown of what will be shown off, the show begins announcing that they will be revealing 30 different games. Let's jump right into it, shall we? We start out with Evil Genius 2 World Domination. The characters and sense of humor are charming, but there was no actual gameplay shown, so I don't even know what kind of game it is. My guess is real-time strategy. Next up is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This game looks pretty cool, the atmosphere is great, the writing is hilarious. Looks like a great horror-inspired action game. Next up is an isometric Metroid-looking game called Starmancer. I really like the style of this game, and it really is reminiscent of Super Metroid. Might pick this one up. Next up is Chivalry 2, a first-person medieval war game. Looks cool enough, but I wouldn't personally buy it. I like that unarmed line, though. That was funny. Next up is Mosaic, a game in a dystopian future where a clicker game took over the Earth. It gave me out-of-this-world vibes. Next up is Midnight Ghost Hunt. This game actually looks really fun. It's essentially if Prop Hunt had a full release, but also you weren't trying to hide from the people with the guns. It looks super fun, and I hope to play it with some friends. Next up is Unexplored 2 The Wayfarer's Legacy, a new top-down exploration game with a fantasy Aztecan aesthetic. Looks kinda just like a walking simulator to me. The next thing they showed off was a new curved computer monitor for gaming, with all the tech mumbo-jumbo, boy howdy do I care. Next is a short rush of trailers. The first one is a generic-looking first-person shooter that took inspiration from Hotline Miami's animal characters called Mutant Year Zero Seed of Evil, a real-time strategy game called Conan Unconquered that looks generic, and a sci-fi horror game that looks like Dead Space called Moons of Madness. Next up is a game that started out as an April Fool's joke but ended up being real, a chibi roguelike game called Conan Chop Chop. It actually looks really fun. I'd play it. Next up is Last Oasis, a team-based hack-and-slash strategy game. Looks pretty generic if I'm honest. Oh look, another generic strategy game called Planetfall. Not interested. Now a generic-looking zombie shooter called Zombie Army Dead War 4. Jesus Christ, I'm suffering here. Next up is Remnant from the Ashes, another fantasy horror shooter that looks like Dead Space. Can I get something interesting, please? Next up is a card-based RPG game that literally stole its gameplay style from the later Paper Mario games called Griftlands. That, surprise surprise, looks generic. Next up is Planet Zoo. Can't wait for the realistic hippo shit mechanic. For real, this game looks good graphically, but looks boring gameplay-wise. Next up is a game that I kind of forgot was happening, but I'm happy we are finally getting something on. Shenmue 3. This game actually looks really good. I don't really know much about the Shenmue games, but at least we have a release date now. About time. Next up is Songs of Conquest. This game is aesthetically beautiful, but once again, Not my kind of game, and not really holding my interest. Next up is an update for a game called Warhammer Vermintide 2 Versus. Never played the base game, so not really interested in this one, Chief. You noticing a theme? It's getting really hard to get through this conference, it really is. But let's power through. Next up is yet another simulator game called Per Aspera, where you build a colony on Mars. Are strategy games and simulator games all PC games have to offer? Jesus Christ. Next, they talked about a game called Ancestors. Not even a trailer. Okay, sure. Then we get a sweet ad about the Epic Game Store. Hurrah! At the end of the ad, they gave us the Nintendo One More Thing treatment with some game called Auto Chess. Why they felt that this totally random game deserved to be treated like a Smash Brothers character reveal, I have no idea. But sure, whatever. Next up is Chris Tales, a beautiful looking JRPG game with a beautiful cartoon style and amazing time travel gimmick. What a breath of fresh air in this boring conference. I want to play this one. The next game also looks fucking sick. Valfaris, a heavy metal 2D action platformer. This is the kind of shit I want to see come out of these conferences, not just the same basic gameplay with a different skin every time. This is another one I want to play. They talk more about Borderlands 3 and don't show anything. Then one technical difficulty later, we watch another trailer for Maneater, an RPG where you cause as much destruction as you can as a shark. The trailer is cool, but really? After 1 year, we don't get a release date? Lame. Gameplay looks really fun, though, if I'm to... Really. An advertisement for a chair. A chair! Jesus Christ, come on! Next, they show off an update for Terraria. Once again, wasn't invested in the base game, so I don't have much to say here. Is it just me, or did the trailer for Terraria just end? What is with this conference? Next up is a game called Telling Lies, a game where you must piece together a mystery using real video footage. This looks so fucking cool. It reminds me of a hybrid between Night Trap and Welcome to the Game. I want to play this so bad. Next is a teaser for the trailer of the next Warframe game. I can't get a read on what kind of game this looks like, a flight battle simulator in space or a hack and slash. Who knows? Next up is Genesis Noir, a noir-inspired telling of the Big Bang in a point-and-click adventure type game. Looks interesting. Next up is El Hijo, a stealth game that looks like if you took the stealth segments from Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker and made them into a full game. It looks fun, but honestly, I can't see myself playing it for more than an hour. More talking about Baldur's Gate 3. That's how it ends. With talking. Jesus Christ, let's just grade this fucking thing. I'm not lying when I say that this presentation was really, really hard to get through. It felt so much longer than 2 hours. I felt like I've been watching this conference for literal days. Everything they showed were the same kind of game with a few exceptions. Nothing held my attention. They constantly stopped the presentation to tell us what was coming in the conference, rather than just showing it. This might be the first E3 presentation where there was an advertisement for a fucking chair! Also, the worst part of it all was this. Now, we all complain when a trailer doesn't show gameplay because, we want something a little bit more than a cinematic. Well, for some of the games, they didn't even have a trailer! Hell, the last game that they talked about didn't have one. When it came to their hypest game, Borderlands 3, not only did they hype it up for the whole conference being like, oh, we get to ask the director of the game some questions about it, but when they do, they have the audacity to not even show a lick of footage of Borderlands 3. I would have even accepted a repeat of the last trailer. For all of these reasons, not only does PC Gaming Show get an F, they get a fucking F-. Jesus Christ, what's next? Ubisoft? Please. Please, for the love of God, be better.
Ubisoft.
We start out with a huge orchestra playing Assassin's Creed music. It was pretty nice, and to find out it's actually an ad for a touring orchestra was pretty neat. I don't know what iconic music is in Assassin's Creed, but sure, why not? The first game they show off is one that looks fucking rad. Watch Dogs Legion. It looks like they've combined the gameplay of Watch Dogs with that of Zombie U, a game where you play as multiple characters, and if you die, that character is dead. For good. I cannot wait to see if this actually affects the story, if you can get through the game without killing anyone, or if you can recruit absolutely everybody. This game looks fucking great. What a great start to the conference. I don't even care that they showed off 2 trailers. What the fuck? Mac from Always Sunny? What are you doing here? They're showing off their new television show, Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet, a show about a dev team creating an expansion to the biggest MMORPG in the world. This show looks pretty hilarious, and why wouldn't it be? It's produced and written by the Always Sunny cast. The part that they showed where the commercial seems to be more about the game dev than the game itself really hits home, especially after the Bethesda conference. Never thought I'd praise a TV show being shown off at E3, but fuck it, it sold me. Next up is a quick blurb and short trailer for the new season of Rainbow Six Siege, Operation Phantom Sight. This is how you announce an update. Short, sweet, to the point. Bethesda and EA need to take notes. Next up is DLC for Brawlhalla that lets you play as Finn, Jake, and Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time. Not that I play Brawlhalla, but seeing Finn and Jake again is really nice. I miss Adventure Time. Next up is Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Just 2 cinematic trailers with no gameplay. Nothing real special here. They also announced a community app called Delta Program. Not to be mean, but does Ghost Recon have that big a community? Wow, we are still talking about Ghost Recon. I might just be out of the loop, but is Ghost Recon really that big a series where it requires 3 speakers to talk about just one game? Jesus Christ, why is Terminator invading all of the shooter series? First Gears, now Ghost Recon? Alright. Next up is a mobile RPG called Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. This game is cool in the way that it crosses over all of the Tom Clancy games. Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, and most notably, we got an appearance from Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell. That's kinda cool. Wish I knew any other character, though. Next up, we got Just Dance 2020. Oh great, another dance performance with a bunch of colorfully dressed people and a panda. Okay, you've sold me. Next up, we got For Honor Shadows of the Hotokiri. No gameplay, just cinematics. Can we stop this, please? Next up, we got Rainbow Six Quarantine, a 3-player co-op game. A lot of love for Tom Clancy this year, huh? Next up, we got an update on The Division 2. I'm still triggered from last year with how much they showed this game off at different conferences, so it has a bit of a sore taste in my mouth. Let's hope this doesn't go on for too long. The update is a 3-episode story. The first taking place in DC, the second taking place on the Pentagon, and the third is a manhunt for a certain person. Hopefully those who already play the game and those who play it when it's free actually enjoy it. One quick movie announcement later and we move on to the next thing. Next up is... God damn it, another streaming service? Come on! Why's there gotta be so many? I smell a future controller input episode. Well, we got Uplay Plus, a streaming service for PC to play any Ubisoft game. Next up is Roller Champions. This is what you get when you mix together Quidditch, Rocket League, and Jet Set Radio. The gameplay looks really fun. Looking forward to it. After a bunch of fluff words, the next and final game that they show off was God and Monsters. They showed nothing really of this game at all, just an aesthetic, which looks pretty generic. With that, we finished off Ubisoft's conference. Let's grade this shit. Ubisoft had a lot of bangers this year. Between Watch Dogs Legion, Roller Champions, and Just Dance 2020, they got some stuff I'm looking forward to. There was a lot of Tom Clancy stuff, however, and I felt like they spent an excessive amount of time talking about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Other than that, though,
Nothing was offensive here. It wasn't very boring, the presentation wasn't overly long, and they kept it concise. For this, Ubisoft gets a B this year. You did good, Ubisoft, but you know what would grab you an A?
The motherfucking Rayman game.
Final Fantasy IX is the best.
Let's get our fill of RPGs, son! They start off with, what else? Final Fantasy VII's Remake. Now look, I've said it on the channel before and I'll say it again. Personally, I do not like Final Fantasy VII. The game is boring, the characters are cardboard, and I just can't get through it. With that being said, this game looks fucking amazing. I want to play the fuck out of this game. This looks so worth the wait. If I could fuck games, I'd fuck this one. I don't even care that it took up a quarter of the conference. I loved every second of that they showed. I'm so happy about this game, and I'm not even a Final Fantasy fan. Fuck, let's just move on before I splooge everywhere. Next up, we got Life is Strange 2. I really gotta play these games, man. They look so good. Fuck it, I'm gonna play them right now. Okay, I'll finish the video first. Next up, we got Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered on mobile. Not really interested. I kinda have a thing against mobile games. Maybe even another controller input, huh? Next up, we got a PC port of Octopath Traveler. Cool. Next up is The Last Remnant Remastered. I never actually heard of this game. Next up, we got Dragon Quest Builders 2. Yo, is that Trunks? Dragon Quest and Minecraft. Not really my cup of tea, but it looks cool though. Next up, we got Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age S. I want to play this game, especially after countless recommendations from Pabs. Next up, we got Circuit Superstars, a top-down driving game. Looks very simple and generic. No thank you. Next up is a Counter-Strike ripoff called Battalion 1944 Eastern Front. I'd rather play Counter-Strike. Next up is Square Enix Music, an app where you can listen to Square Enix music. Interesting, I guess. I usually just use YouTube. Next up, we got Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, a DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. God, I really have to get into this series and just jump down the twisty-turny, confusing rabbit hole that is this series. Next up, we got some update information about Final Fantasy XIV. Not really interested in this one. Never played Final Fantasy XIV and not really into the MMO style they went with. The cinematics look cool though. Next up, we got Dying Light 2, which still looks pretty badass. But it's a repeat, so let's just move on. Next up, we got Romancing Saga 3 and Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions, which both look like pretty solid RPGs with the interesting mechanic of having choices that affect the storyline. I might pick these up, since I've been starting to get into RPGs lately. Next up is another Final Fantasy mobile game called War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which is meant to expand upon the universe the first Final Fantasy Brave Exvius built. Not much interested though. Next up is Ononaki, a hack-and-slash RPG game that looks really fun. I'll play it for definite. Next up is Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. It's really cool that we're getting a graphical overhaul of this game, even if I currently don't have the best opinion of this game. It's also cool to see the audience give some love to a Final Fantasy game that isn't 7. Next up, we got the final and probably most hyped game that people have been waiting all of E3 for, The Avengers. The cinematics of this game look fucking fantastic. An all-star voice cast, even if I hear a bit too much Deadpool and Tony Stark, but whatever, it's Nolan North and he's amazing. So much cool stuff bogged down by just one simple misstep. No gameplay. I can understand if the game was just starting development, but they said that they'd have gameplay booths at E3. Why not show off a little bit of it to those who weren't there? With that, ends the Square Enix conference. Let's give them their grade. Square Enix did an amazing job this year. There was absolutely nothing where I felt like it dragged or that I didn't really care. Even for games I didn't care much about, I still liked to watch the teasers and was interested. I am mad hype for both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Avengers. For that reason, Square Enix gets a grade of an A. The only reason they didn't get an A+ is because of the huge misstep of not showing gameplay for Avengers. They knew that was one of their most anticipated announcements, and they showed cinematics and left the gameplay for only those that were there. Now the one I've been looking forward to the most. The E3 Nintendo Direct. Okay, so I'm gonna do something admittedly kinda lazy, but fuck it. I feel like this will be better than any way I can describe it on here. On my friend Steve's channel, Shay64, me and him did a live reaction to Nintendo's E3 Direct. Here's a couple highlights.
Yo! Remember the fucking Hulk now?
Oh! Is this 3?
Oh my god! Is this fucking No More Heroes 3? Are you serious?
Why does he have a star in his eye?
I don't know. Yes! It's No More Heroes 3! Oh my god! Holy shit! What? What is this? Are we getting another DK character? No! Oh my god! Oh my fucking god! That was a Chiggy! Oh my god, I'm gonna have a fucking heart attack. Yes! Oh my god! Man, yes! Yes!
If you want to know my reaction to the whole Direct, just watch that video. It's gonna be in the description. It's great. You can hear Steve cry when Banjo is announced. You can hear me cry when No More Heroes 3 was announced. It's just a big fun time with two losers crying over video games. Truly, we are living our best life. So, let's not waste any time, and let's get right to grading. Do I even have to tell you all the bullshit? Of course, Nintendo is getting an A+. Nintendo really knows how to make announcements. They know exactly what to focus on, what to spend less time on, and how to keep it entertaining. That Doug Bowser bit still has me laughing. Great job as usual, Nintendo. Alright, we've finally gone through all of the presentations and press conferences of E3 2019. Let's see all the grades, rank the conferences worst to best, and then we'll give E3 2019 its final grade. In last place, we have the PC Gaming Show. This conference was unbearable to watch. Nothing was very captivating, there were only a few games that I wanted to play, we had an ad for a fucking chair, and some games that they talked about didn't even have trailers. That's ridiculous. In 6th place, we have Bethesda. There was just too much of Bethesda sucking their own dick here. Nothing they showed was new, other than Doom Eternal, but not even that could save it. In 5th place, we have EA. I give them credit for trying something different, but 90% of it were updates and not any new games. In 4th place, we got Ubisoft. A pretty solid conference, but nothing to be too excited over. In 3rd place, we have Microsoft. There was just so much that they announced this year, and most of it was actually pretty good, and I'm actually genuinely surprised that something that was this long and had this many announcements was actually good. In 2nd place, we have Square Enix. Square Enix had a really good conference. Final Fantasy VII Remake had me hyped as shit, and all of the other announcements were cool as well. Tied for 1st place, we have Devolver and Nintendo. What great fucking conferences, man. Every single game that they showed off was something that I wanted to play. The showmanship, especially by Devolver, was fucking fantastic. I mean, I'm a sucker for gross film stuff like that, considering that's the stuff I make.
Eggs will be there.
Yeah. Anyway, tallying all of those scores together gives E3 2019 the overall grade of a C+. When the goods were there, they were great, but when things were bad, they were unbearable. That's why E3 2019 gets such a painfully average grade. Oh wait, did I say C+? I meant a C. Why? I'm docking down a whole half-letter grade because of all of the trailers that were there this year that had no gameplay whatsoever. So many announcements this year had trailers with no gameplay. A lot of them were games with lots of hype too. Avengers, Halo Infinite, Gears 5, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Cyberpunk 2077. I can give EA one thing. They showed gameplay for basically every game they showed. If you liked the video, please like it, comment it, subscribe it, hit that bell notification if you want to see when we upload next. The question of the day is, it's kind of a long-form question. Tell me what you thought of E3, what conference you thought was the best, what conference you thought was the worst, what games that you're hyped for, and what games you really don't give a shit about. I've been Bottles, and thank you for watching.